Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you don't know me, I'm Salma. I'm an IISMA awardee in 2023 to the University of Liverpool, and hopefully this is my last video on IISMA, because as you might have heard that IISMA is gonna be discontinuing from this year. And as an IISMA awardee, it hits differently for me, and I have a few personal thoughts to share. But I would like to disclaim that before we dive in, these are my personal takes, and it does not speak for every single IISMA awardee and alumnus. And this is just my own experience and my perspectives after talking to, I would say, a good 5 other IISMA alumni. So, I'll just cut to the chase. For me, IISMA was just more than studying abroad. It was about growth, stepping out of my comfort zone, and seeing the world through different perspectives. And I also got to study courses that isn't necessarily offered here in Indonesia, or at least in my university. And I get to meet a lot of incredible people and experience different academic culture, and it also shaped the way I think to different opportunities that I may apply in the future. So, the challenges and the realities of IISMA. So one issue that comes up every year, I'm gonna read disclaimer, I am gonna read this off of a script that I wrote, just because I don't want this to be taken in a different way and stirred up in a different way. So I'm gonna stick to my script as much as I can. So one issue that comes up every single year is the debate around IISMA students are traveling with taxpayers' money. And to be honest, I don't want to entirely deny it, but not every single IISMA students are literally traveling every single day. But here's my take. I believe that every students, we deserve the free will to explore and truly experience the culture of the country we visit in. And studying is just one of the areas. Now, think about it this way. If you were a foreign student studying in a city in East Java, and in those 4 to 6 months, you don't travel beyond the city, so you only stay in that one city, it will be quite unfortunate, because the person will only have his views stuck on that one city, when the whole country doesn't mean that the whole country reflects on that one city. Then that's why I think that a good few travel to different parts of the country that have a significant change in culture and language is important. We are gonna wait until azannya selesai. Alright, continuing. Where was I? Alright, at the end of the day, we're just like any other students who sometimes need a break, and just like me, or like people in Surabaya yang they travel to Malang or Batu, or like any other Java or outside of Java, like basically any other Indonesian cities, for a short getaway before diving back into intensive studies, especially after your midterms and before jumping into the next term. It really is no different, and I think that should be a point of consideration. On not all IISMA students are traveling just for the sake of traveling, and In University of Liverpool, IISMA students are given a choice of 2 free travels. So it may not only be in University of Liverpool for IISMA students, it may be in other universities. IISMA students are also given like a free trip. If I'm not wrong, kaya IISMA Lancaster they visited Liverpool for free, like for a day trip, and I feel like you can see it as they're traveling with your taxpayer money, but they don't literally do that because that's a free travel from their university, host university. Additionally, I think I said it in my previous video, the one that I did with Priska and Ninda, that while traveling, you don't always go for the sake of traveling. Sometimes you learn about the history. I like to go to museums or castles in the UK just because I want to learn about the history. And art museums, I love art genuinely. And yeah, I just go to different museums, different castles, different historical places to learn about their history, what their culture used to look like and what it looks like now, and think about how and ponder how Indonesia can develop and advance like these countries. So, and then let's talk about something else that is important, the actual output of the program. So IISMA is meant to be an international cultural exposure program. I don't want to say it's a student exchange program, because student exchange means there's an actual exchange in students where Indonesian students go abroad and foreign students come to Indonesia. But that's not fully true. So I would say international cultural exposure program. But is this cultural exposure really contributing to anything impactful in Indonesia? And I do think there's a lot of room for improvement, especially considering that this is funded by you guys, as the people of Indonesia. And one big debate is we are essentially required to take courses out of our major, and there's two sides to that, definitely. On one hand, it's great that we get to explore new fields, but on the other hand, wouldn't it be beneficial if we could choose courses that would advance our knowledge that we already have in Indonesia, and that is in line with the degree that we are learning in Indonesia? Like, imagine if the output of the program was to learn about their culture, but also their technological advancements, or their educational advancements, and their advancements in different industries. And then IISMA student could like analyze systematically and make a review on how Indonesia could adapt these advancements in the future, and what steps can we take to reach the same advancements that they have. That will be a much greater impact if we focus on bringing back structure, insights that contribute to our national development. So, and then financial issues. Back to the financial issues, I feel like a lot of people say just close down the IISMA program. On one hand, I feel like don't close it, but instead you can reduce the number of awardees, because with less number of awardees, the government can actually look after they could increase monitoring for each and every awardee, and they could ensure that the recipients of the scholarship are actually making the most of the opportunity given to them for their personal benefit and also the government's and Indonesia's benefits. And I say a more focused group, more focused group would have made a better long-term results for us. There's also a privilege debate on only rich students can apply and get into IISMA because they can afford IELTS or TOEFL, and the requirements that may or may not need money. And while I understand why people say this, I'd argue that most, but not all, definitely most study abroad opportunities do need you to have these things. They require you to already have an IELTS or TOEFL, an English proficiency test, SKTK, SKBN, and all those stuff. So you can't fully blame IISMA awardees for being able to afford the tests. And many of us can actually afford to pay the English proficiency test and all the requirements, but that doesn't mean we could afford to study abroad on our own. Like living expenses, accommodation expenses, tuition expenses. That's where the whole point of the scholarship comes. It's to provide opportunities for students who might not have the financial means to pursue an international education. And with that being said, I do think the financial barrier for applications could be addressed in future programs, maybe by providing support for students who need help covering test fees or making the selection process more accessible. That is for the government to decide. But I feel like that is a short, concise opinion from me as an IISMA awardee for the IISMA program and the MBKM program. And I feel like if you're watching this and you're from the government looking to make similar opportunities, similar programs of a student exchange or a cultural exposure program or an educational exposure program, I feel like IISMA awardees are a good group of people for you guys to look into what you could have done better. Bye. Thank you for watching.